Shalom. Call Halal, Yahawah by Yahawashi, by Qadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners. And to the Yahawah that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And there was a video that I was meaning to get to about 3 days ago that, I hadn't gotten to it, distracted and doing other things. But it's for the TikTok corner. It is also going to be purposely put up on the critical race historical facts channel 2. The historical, the critical race historical facts channel 2. All right, that one. But there was this guy on TikTok, basically, who was coming against the 12 tribe chart. And even though he mentioned IUIC, he mentioned the 12 tribe chart that is wrong, and IUIC uses the correct 12 tribe chart. Now, they break down a lot of other things incorrectly and wrong, but they would definitely teach you the truth about who the tribes are. I have no quarrel, no problem with IUIC when it comes to that portion of their doctrine. They definitely have the right breakdown of who the 12 tribes are. So I'm looking at this. I went to the Jewish Encyclopedia .com of the word Azareth, and this is by Morris Jastrow and J.R. Kaufman Kohler. So these are Jewish guys here, and they pointed out the fact that in the Jewish Encyclopedia, well, you can read the first paragraph, the name of the land beyond the great river, which is talking about is and that's when you go back to 2nd Ezra, the 13th and 14th chapter, because this guy who made this outlandish claim that the world split during the time of Peleg, I think that's in Genesis 10 and 25. And that the people over here were already here. No, that's not true. No one was living over here. The world split after the flood. All right. But no one was living in this portion of the world. Everyone was living in the east. No one was in the western portion of the world. All right. The Israelites were the first to come over here and actually inhabit this land. There's evidence that the Africans, the Hamites were coming here. That Moab may have even come here. All right. But no one was living here. Okay. So anyway, reading this definition in the Jewish Encyclopedia says the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of restoration. And he mentions 2nd Ezra, the 4th chapter. All right. The 13th verse right there. Okay. And then it says, Columbus identified America with this land. See K. Serling's Christopher Columbus translated. Guess what I have in my hand? Mayor K. Serling's, all right, Christopher Columbus translated. Right here in my hand. Okay? Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. And on page 15, it does exactly that. Let me see if I can get some light. Shine on the book here. There's shadows behind me. There it is. It says, he was also very fond of reading the Bible. This is page 15. In the 4th book of Ezra, which is Ezra's, in the Greek, which was proven it was a part of the book of Ezra. You got first and 2nd Ezra. It also has a third and 4th book. All right. And it says, which was probably written by a Jew, no it was, who lived outside of Palestine, according to his own assertion, the incentive that implied him to plan his discoveries not for the love of science, but the interpretation of the prophecies of Isaiah. All right. So he knew. So that whole man-made lie that Christopher Columbus was looking for India, that was a lie to cover up the fact. All right. That was a lie that they came up with to fit the white superiority narrative, that white, extreme Christian extremism narrative because they didn't want to acknowledge to the world that they came over here to looking for the Israelites, because they knew that that there was a lot of gold in wherever this Azareth was, because Solomon in the book of Kings sent his African, his Hamite servants over here on a great trip, which they came every 3 years. It took them a year and a half to get here and a year and a half to get back, and they always came back with gold and fruit and turkeys, animals that that came from America. So there's physical evidence of that, and the Israelites went to that land. Okay, so without any further ado, let's play the hypocrisy and idiocracy of this guy who just shouldn't be teaching. This guy needs to be taking notes only and never make a video again. I mean, real talk. But let's show his face to the world. It says rebuke before all. So here we go.
If I don't say nothing, I'm going to leave too many people in the dark. So I'm forced to call out IUIC with this false doctrine. You be trying to give people a false sense of empowerment, telling lies. It don't take that. The truth can't be disproven.
Now, if you read up in the corner there, it's too small, so I'm going to read it. It says, I'm Puerto Rican. Trust me, I know I am a descendant of the chosen nation. If anyone denied me, they will get denied in the kingdom. And there's a lot of truth to that statement. So I just wanted to read that. That's what it says right up there in the corner there. All right. The so-called Puerto Ricans are definitely the tribe of Ephraim. Hands down. As a matter of fact, barely 2 years ago, they just found some Hebrew relics written in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the block Hebrew, which came before the Assyrian script, which is used today, which I actually prefer. It's easy to learn, and sometimes I just don't even want to deal with the Assyrian script, just out of defiance of the the lies. Okay, because the people who are connected to that and use that script. So, but nevertheless, they found they found these relics in Puerto Rico. All right, so you'd have to explain that. But here we go.
Israelite chart, the tribe chart is fake. It's false. One of y'all made it up. You didn't get that out of no book.
So he's coming with that black only Israelite thing.
Let's put something into perspective. Everybody open your Bible to Genesis 10:25. The earth was divided in the day of Peleg. Earth did this in the day of Peleg. It split in the day of Peleg, Genesis 10:25. Now, it's 221 years between Peleg and Abraham. It's another 100 years before.
Salakia, someone was constantly trying to call me, and I was trying to avoid their information popping up all over the screen. They horrible timing. And this is the second that, first time I tried to do this video, Satan just don't want this to come out, man. But here we go.
Isaac, and another 60 years before Isaac had Jacob and Esau. Now, these people were already in these places when the earth split. How could they be descendants of?
And that's where he's so off with. Where he's getting that from. This is a guy who really doesn't know history and is winging it. All right. I doubt if he was even taught that. He more than likely came up with that on his own. All right. More likely than not, he did that. Okay. All right, Salakia. So let's go to 2nd Ezra and read it. This is 2nd Ezra 13, and we'll start at verse 40, and it reads, "Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of the land of the time of Hosea, the king of whom Salmanazar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and carried them over the waters, so they came into another land. But they took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of heathen and go forth further into a further country where never mankind had dwelt." So they chose to leave from among the heathen that they were among in what the world ignorantly refers to as the Mideast. All right, and it says, and they that they might there keep their statutes that they never kept in their own land. And so you got the Jewish Encyclopedia and this book from the 1800s translated to English, Mayor K. Serling's book, documenting the same that Christopher Columbus came over here with the intent on finding the lost tribes. Okay, so they were there, and there are hundreds of books written on this subject matter in the 16, 17, and 1800s. All right, so they've always known that the natives of the Americas were Israelites. They've always known that. Okay, they knew that they were Gad and Reuben. Okay, for that part, and the rest of the northern kingdom. All right, but it's specifically in North America. It was Gad and Reuben here. You know, Gad being a smaller tribe on the southeast, and then the majority of the rest of America, Gad, and even some parts of America, Issachar. Okay, but it says, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, and that's what we spoke about when we read Mary K. Shirley's book. All right, for the Most High showed them signs and held still the flood till they were passed over. So they came down into the Indian Ocean, or is it the Indian or Arabian Ocean? I forget which. And then they came down into that, down around Madagascar, in between Africa and Madagascar, around the Horn of Africa and over into the Americas. That's where they came. All right, and it took them a year and a half to do so, to go in one direction. All right, and it tells you that. It says, for through the country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half in the same region is called Asareth, and we're reading about it. So Asareth is identified by the scholars in the 16, 17, and 1800s as America. But see, teaching that today, modern day, that's going to mess up the whole Judaism thing and them being the people of the Lord. So they try to get away from that for the most part. Okay, that's what they do. So let's bring up another video where a guy gives overwhelming evidence, and then I'm going to add to it with some stuff from the Lost Tribes and Promised Lands from Ronald Sanders, and the little background on Ronald Sanders. This scholar here, let's show the book. Ronald Sanders set out to disprove that the natives were Israelites. All right, let me hit the light again. He set out to disprove that the so-called natives of the Americas were the Israelites, but then when he started doing his research, he found out that there's no way that they're not. That these truly are, the lost tribes. And the truth be saying, they were never lost. They've always known. That was just a convenient thing from white Christian extremism to say that, to get around the fact of what they were doing here in the Americas, or say that the tribes were someplace where white people were. All right, or anything that uplifted white superiority is what they would teach. So all this evidence basically got swept under the rug. Even in 1783, the president of the Smithsonian Museum of the Smithsonian, he basically declared any artifacts or relics prior to Christopher Columbus could not be used or displayed. All right, anything before 1789. All right. like the Bakri stones, for example, you know. Any relics that were found prior to Christopher Columbus, he did that in 1782 and 1789, because what did that do? That helped proved that you got to think, you had Indian removals going on and murdering and the stealing of the land of the natives, and then you had white Christian extremism at the hand of this, and Judaism all at the hand of this, and that would have vilified them to like, wait a minute, these people are the Lord's people, and you're murdering and killing them and stealing their land. So in order to protect that lie, they got deemed Indians, and Indian means savage. You know, they were called tree niggers and all sorts of bywords. Okay, so they had to protect that lie. Okay, and there was so much information, they were keeping customs that there was no way for that they would know if they weren't the people. As you're gonna see in this video, you're gonna hear the brother in the video even break down how people were saying that, well, they were only keeping these customs because the devil showed it to them. All right, it's like, what? It's just they would come up with all these weird excuses to try to get around the fact that the people over here in the Americas are indeed Israelites. So let's let this Judite go in on the studies. Someone who's learned and not like that clown in the beginning.
Ideas that explained and legitimated the enslavement of Africans were also deployed to justify the uprooting and destruction of Indian nations, and then moved.
Jeremiah 50 and 33, when it talks about how Judah and Jerusalem, being the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, so-called natives and so-called African slaves, were oppressed together. So that happened here in the Americas. Okay, but let's go.
Unbound through Western thought. The century-long descent of the Indian in the English mind, for instance, from lost Jews destined for Christianization and assimilation.
That's Romans 9:26. We're going to read that.
For extinction was one branch of a body of social ideas that transformed the intellectual and institutional cultures of Europe and the Americas. Those ideas had histories. Christians believed Indians to be a lost tribe of Jews. Catholic missionaries in the Spanish colonies, like their Protestant peers,
and the ones that did got silenced. All right, those books got put on the shelf.
Felt compelled to address the lineage of Indians, which had consequences for Christians' relationships with Native America.
See?
Early Spanish invaders looked for resemblances between Indian cultures and Judaism, and commonalities between indigenous languages and Hebrew. As we know, Christopher Columbus brought Luis de Torres, a converso, with him as Hebrew interpreter.
Converso, meaning he was a Moor, Moreno, a so-called black man. All right? He brought him over to interpret Hebrew because Christopher Columbus knew he was going to encounter Hebrew-speaking people.
Meet on the other side of the world. By the 1560s, Spanish clerics were debating whether Indians were descendants of one of the lost tribes of Israel, or if perceived similarities to the Jews were products of a satanic manipulation.
You hear that garbage?
Johannes Megapolensis encountered an elderly Indian woman who was likely Mohawk, and who repeated part of the Iroquois creation story, which included, in fact, the story of a divine feud between two brothers. Dominican Megapolensis took this as a variant of the story of Cain and Abel, and further evidence of the Jewish heritage of the Indians.
We would say Israelite heritage, not Jewish heritage. Jewish is made up. The suffix ish means to be like. Okay, it wasn't the 12 tribes of Jewish, it was the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, so I'm just gonna read a portion of from the Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, an encounter with Francisco. All right, and I'm going to start on page 364. Let's see. I'm going to start on page 364, right here about where it says waving a banner high in the air. All right, because they went on a boat ride, and it says, waving a banner high in the air, Can we see that through the camera? Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can't see it. Waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke far beyond the other bank of the river. In response to his signal, the two men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared bearing 3 men and a woman, all Indians, they call them savages, to the place where Francisco and Montezumos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montezumos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. She turned to a male companion to explain the situation. Upon hearing his words, they rose, went over to Montezumos, and to his utter astonishment said, Shema Yasharallah, Yahawah, Alahayanawa, Yahawah Akkad. They didn't say Shema Yisrael Adonai. They didn't say that. That's the Yiddish influenced Hebrew which is used today. All right, which means, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And that's what I was talking about, the block Hebrew, ancient Paleo Hebrew versus the more modern Assyrian script, when they added the vowel points and added the extra things that were added on by a Jewish scholar in the late 1800s. All right, about the mid to the late 1800s, he added those to make improvements on the language, so what they speak is not a pure language. It says they had recited the Hebrew fundamental creed of Judaism. Remember, they didn't. It was because the Hebrew Israelites did not practice Judaism. They weren't the 12 tribes of Judaism or Jews. They were the 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe was different, but yet the same. It says a brief conversation ensued. Their common ancestral tongue, according to Montezumos, whose fluency in it almost perplexing to the reader of the narrative, as the 3 mysterious new companions, they told him where themselves and the tribes of Reuben, that's my tribe, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. The day when they were last to issue the fourth into the world was coming, they explained, but the meantime, they could not allow visitors to cross over to them. They were willing to make an exception in the near future, however, on the account of their need for education, for though they spoke Hebrew, they could not read or write it. Who Montezumos, especially if they were, if they were using that new form of it. It says Montezumos send them 12 Salakia. Would Montezumos send them 12 bearded men to be their teachers, meaning rabbis? He said he would. The 4 strangers returned to their canoe, paddled back across the river to disappear from view. Francisco told Montezumos all he knew about these people from his own traditions. All right. His ancestors, their eternal shame, all right, had indeed made war on them and persecuted them. All right. So we went through these curses. These are the curses of Deuteronomy as punishment. All right. Though, and the curses that are upon us. I mean, look at the headline news. Look at what's happening in Chicago as lately. All right. Those are the curses that will befall the Jews, not, the Israelites, not everyone. Okay. And not the Jewish, because those curses aren't upon them, because they're not the people. All right. It says only the sources of his tribe have perceived that they were a special people. All right. So he's telling him that the witches, this heathen is telling him that these the witches in his tribe that knew that the Israelites, that these people were special. Only the sorcerers of his tribe have perceived that they were special people and had given warning that they should be left alone. The God of these children of Israel, not Jewish, the God of the children of Israel is the true God, they had said, and everything inscribed in their tablets is true. At the end of days, which we're near, which we're in, they will be lords over all nations of the earth. And that's exactly what's going to happen. All right. And that's why they've hid this history the way that they have. So with that, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahawah by Hashem Yahawashi, by Hashem Rawchaa Qadash, Wa Ababa Bal, Kwam Yasharala Shalom.